band into draft we go. At least that's why all the other players or casters say whenever we go into this one as well. And it's going to be really curious to see where they're going to find their priorities. Recently, there was talks about some of the comfort picks that Fnatic was allowed to have once again to find some of the victories. Some of them, of course, was the Sire. Some of them, of course, was the Vi. And then there's the other aspect of that coin, which is, of course, G2 with some of their bans towards Hansama.
Question is, what exactly will G2 strategy be? If you are just tuning in, I'd like to remind everyone that Fnatic did tweet yesterday the team is still struggling with illness, is affecting the squad on the ground here in Berlin, so meaning they are playing from their team facility for the time being. While we do have the Teddy Bears on stage, it is a little heartbreaking for our match of the week. And if you did miss the analyst desk, for G2, if they win this game, they lock top 4. For Fnatic, if they win this game, they lock top 8. And straight out the gate, Gulborg, Nautilus, Jace, Draven, Annie removed from the pool.
Yeah, and now it's going to be curious to see because Reckless, I mean, he's just been so much more comfortable on the Sire. Sire left open, Vi left open. All these champions that Fnatic is usually so happy to have actually been left open. On the side of G2, it's hard to say what they're going to prioritize in terms of players being stable in terms of what they're picking. It's actually Yike right now who's the most stable. You usually see him on the facilitators. We see him on the Vi, we see him on the Maoka as well recently. He's been playing a lot more of a facilitating role, which is a stark contrast to how they played in winter.
Well, what will his strategy be this time? Looks to be that case for now. That fight, the Xayah in fact was banned away by Fnatic. Caitlyn respect as well. So bottom lane pretty heavily hit. The Zeri is still open and available, something that we've seen a whole hell of a lot. And the question is, does Reckless lock that in now? And if he doesn't, what will his answer be? Because the expectation is likely that Hansama will take it.
Yeah, I can look for an AD carry already. Sivir is an old champion that used to be good into the Vi as well. If you're going to get rid of that lockdown, Sejuani is still available for Razork. We know he loves that facilitating playstyle as well, so that's something you can go for. Rakan, we've seen him in a lot today. On the band, not so much in the game as well, and here it actually goes through. No Sire this time around though, and a blind pick as well. Feels better when you see that Nautilus has been banned.
Yeah, very true, and of course for Advien, one of his most played. I think I will hover on that Sivir point you said for a second, because Reckless has been going back to older champions that he's played more often and finding more success with it. This is his 500th game. Instead, they're going to lock in that jungler for now. Wukong for Razork. I'll be answered into the Vi from Yike. So no real surprises as of yet. We'll start to feel this out. Do you anticipate you two locking in the likes of Zeri Lulu here? That has been the flavor of 13-4, the celebration here in Europe.
Nah,
there we go, that's one at least.
Just didn't want it. I mean, yeah, sure, it can still happen. Even then, you're not too unhappy about going Lulu into the likes of Rakan. You can stop his W with a well-timed wild growth. Renata, though, really good into the engage that you might anticipate when the Wukong comes towards you. When the Rakan comes forward there, Lara already in this studio there with the Zeri outplay. And there we actually have it. The Sivir comes through on...
Okay. So two things here that couldn't be further apart. After 500 games in the LEC, Reckless has played 78 of them on Sivir. This is his 79th, and he's got a 63% win ratio. Conversely, this is Mickey's 3rd ever Renata, and both of his 2 previous games were wins. But what I do like is how both of those respective champions have answers into the other. Renata's hostile takeover into Wukong Rakan. The spell shield into the Vi engage is phenomenally powerful.
Yeah, and right now Fnatic is just trying to take away some of the mid laners. This pairs so well with the Vi. You can see the Talia has been taking off the board. They could look for the Ahri as well if that's something they're scared of. And then they could look for NSC on 4 as is one of Humanoid's specials. We have seen him pop off on the control mages, and you can already see it. Fnatic are building a good front-to-back teamfight composition if they continue down this path.
This will be the case for now. So that phase ban, LeBlanc, the Talia removed from the pool. Top laner is going to be a question mark for me. And I think top laner as well is going to be an interesting one. Oscar in week 1 and week 2. If you turned the nameplates off while watching games, you'd think it was a different player. You would think it's a different person in the seat. He's finding influence. He's finding success. I wouldn't necessarily say he is carrying the games that they have won last week and stepping up this week, but I will say he's being more valuable. He's not as much as a hindrance. And interestingly, Broken Blade, as I said, one of the weaker laning phases, has found more value in the later stages of the game. So that'll be an interesting matchup and an interesting trading pattern to watch just based on both teams' journeys this spring.
I completely agree. So who do you value the most here in terms of getting that counter pick? It is actually just going to be Oscar, and is that a C on 4 as well. It just feels like Fnatic are getting a lot of the champions that they actually want. And a lot of the times when we've seen Fnatic lose, it wasn't necessarily because they had a bad draft, but more so how they played it out. Once again, they've ended up in a position where they are back on comfort and G2 Esports rounding out their solo laners. This is usually where it's a bit difficult to predict what's going to happen.
A bit difficult? What have they been cooking is the question.
That's normal.
Okay, so Caps locking in the Silas. I think a lot of Ultimatus Steel and Broken Blade going to the Cassante. So I want to see an improvement in the laning phase immediately. And what is Oscarinen's answer to this Cassante? We'll find out in a moment. Once we do get that locked in, Goodborg, tell me about these two compositions and how you think they want to win as the Jax is now secured.
Yeah, well, from the side of G2, you get a bit more skirmish potential when you reach that level 6 between the Vi and the Silas. Even before that, you can look for plays, whereas on the side of Fnatic, you're looking for 6 specifically, especially with the Wukong, looking for that Divine Sundra. In terms of the story with their AD carries, they're both looking to scale. One has playmaking potential in the Rakan, the other has the ability to stop the playmaking in that Rakan with the Renata instead. And the top laners, they're top laners, they're going to do top lane things.
Top lane things, but I do think the potential for explosiveness is higher there. When you do see Cassante and the Jax, when you consider both Razork and Yike could move to those respective lanes, I think I want to keep my eyes on Caps as well. Has been a very active mid laner. He has his whole career, but definitely has found significant impact in playing to those side lanes for G2 Esports. Reminder, top 4 if G2 win, top 8 if Fnatic win. This is our match of the week. I missed that.
Oh, they kissed, and I'm a Dane, but I'm no Deficio, so you're gonna have to let that one linger and wait for it.
Do you remember at least the line from Madrid, 2015?
Is it the one
so
where...
this one, it was, kiss me, Goodborg. That was what Deficio said to set the tone. We're about to hit the ref for G2 vs Fnatic.
He just slapped my ass!
Welcome to Summoner's Rift, as we've got a defensive start to fan out. The Fnatic fans here cheering on their squad. On its game winning streak for now. Definitely looking stronger. Cap stepped into the river, a little bit surrounded by a couple members. So for the early game and early pathing, we can already see that both Yike and Razork starting towards the top half. A small invade as Broken Blade and Yike will step in and drop that ward.
So the early game has been set up here. The tracking of Razork in the early game on the side of Fnatic. Not any aggressive vision just yet. So they're going to have to just wait around. Oscarinne could look to walk in towards the blue buff whenever it spawns. See if that is indeed where Yike is starting. But that's going to be the intel they're working with in the early game.
Okay, Goodborg, bear with me for a second as I do need to celebrate 2 quick things. Number 1, 500 games for Reckless in the LEC. I will say that this comes with a gigantic caveat. Reckless himself saying in the Match of the Week video that the current king is Hans Summer, defending Winter Split champion. And it's up to Reckless to live up to his former glory because over the years he has fallen off. But what I will say is he's on a champion that has found phenomenal impact. Our stats team shows 50 wins, 29 losses, a 7 KDA, and over 1.4 million damage on the champion. I love my stats, and Reckless will be called to add to that figure today if he wants to get Fnatic locked into group stages and those BO3s.
Yeah, that damage has to be the most useless stats going into this game, I'll be honest with you. But looking at how the bot lane panned out, you can see that Fnatic actually wanted to bounce the wave immediately and try and get some control of it, specifically because that Razork is actually pathing up towards that top side, so could be looking to help out Broken Blade against, or Oscarinne against Broken Blade up there. That means that control will go over in favor of the G2 bot lane, and they could look for roams and skirmishes with Mickey once they finally get out of lane.
I mean, Mickey's looking for an opportunity to handshake, fires out those missiles. Hans Sama already getting a little bit of an advantage here in the early laning phase. Shove that wave forward. I mean, +7 in the first 2 waves already. Couple lost under the tower. While that's going on, as is expected in the early levels, yeah. Zia is pressing forward into Caps and top lane. Just a pretty even trading for now, but I will keep my eyes on those mini-maps. Red buff is about to be picked up there by Razork as well as Yike.
Yeah, but I think you're going to be looking at a very stale early game for the most part. Some of these champions just really wants to have that level 6 before they start influencing anywhere on the map. Razork specifically, we've talked about the Wukong in last game, we'll talk about it again. The Divine Sundera's power spike is just so huge. From the side of Yike, you do have gang potential, you do still have CC before that level 6, but you need the setup for it as well. And right now, bot lane at least, it's not presenting itself. You could look for mid, but Humanoid, you know, he has the ability to get away if it's needed.
He does, and I think I want to just credit the fact that as you start talking about sort of the laning phase playing out a little bit expected, just trading farm back and forth. The observers have been able to flex this triple lane view. Fnatic pushed in on the bottom wave, the far right. It's even in the middle lane, and Oscarinin on that Jax for now shoving forward. The one thing we don't see though is where the junglers are, and here comes Razork. Oscarin's low, flashes away from Broken Blade, and Razork's not in range to do so. However, both top laners using their sums, and then maybe a dive. How feisty is Razork feeling?
Yeah, that's the question here. Razork could tank, he still has the flash, no ghost on Broken Blade, but they're not looking for it. They're gonna let him get away with it.
Made this one just a little bit risky, and all of a sudden it's Advien. He gets the grand entrance, lands a knock up onto Mickey. Mickey's got that flash ignite. It is mirrored by his opposite number. And there's still a 10 CS advantage for Hansama and Mickey in the bottom lane. Reckless and Advien under a lot of pressure. They've at least got a couple levels under their belt to bite back, but they are playing this one fairly defensively.
Yeah, and just for the early game, let's see where they actually want to put their vision. On the side of Fnatic, you can clearly see where they're prioritizing. They're actually looking up towards the top side to keep the tracking going of Yike. For G2, well, where it's happening, it's down towards the bottom side. They're going to spot Razork in just a bit as well, and they're going to get the intel that, you know what, we have to be worried about bot side, but we don't have to be worried about top side.
Very quickly, before this next engage plays out, just cast your mind back to the last time these two teams faced in the regular season. Mickey is now going to get jumped on. Advien dances his way back. Razork is looking and fishing for an opportunity, but by this point in the game, in winter, in the regular season, it was over. At 14 minutes, Fnatic were down a significant amount of gold, down gigantic KDA, and more importantly, it was that Draven game. G2 just tower dove over and over and over. The comps aren't going to allow for it, but I do want to call back to the last time they met, because this time already, not only are the stakes significantly higher, Fnatic have got themselves into a position where they've got advantages at least a little bit and staying dead even here.
Yeah, and I think Fnatic, they're quite happy with the way the drafting turned out as well, because they don't actually have to fight a lot of G2 early game that they have been so, you know, feared for. There's not a lot of playmaking potential for G2 in the early game. There's not a lot of tools for them to accelerate it the way that we would usually see when they're playing towards bot side, for example, because there's not the same setup that we usually see with Mickey. He's actually on an Enchanter. It's not going to stop them from trying to start up this Drake here. Reckless was on a reset, Advien is still around. Razork coming around too.
Level 5 there, will step forward into Caps, who's got the hijack available. 1700 inside the pit. Caps stepping forward, waiting to see where the hijack goes. Razork jumps forward, the quickness has been stolen. Dragon down to 600, secured by G2, but Caps is the target. He's quickness, sidestepping, running, and poked down by Bo. Kill secured for Fnatic, Dragon secured by G2.
Yeah, you can see Caps wanted to look for it there. He had the bail off on Renata, so he could try and die in game, and then afterwards just get a reset to kindly come back alive with it. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Drake goes over to G2, but they're forfeiting first blood for it.
Of course, this is how this one started out. You can see Yike kind of committing to the objective while Caps is buying as much time as possible.
Yeah, so Caps opts in for the Rakan ultimate, kind of needs to pop it and see if he can get Razork. I think he's not expecting him to stick around in the bush. Had he known that, he probably would have looked for it with the flash itself. But there, the bonk from Razork comes out.
That means that Razork secures that first blood. He builds a small gold advantage for himself and Humanoid. And the one thing I wanted to mention, and as you talked about the compositions, Fnatic's comp can do very well in counter-engage. Under some threat here, Yike goes in for the blue buff steal, forced to flash over the wall.
Yeah.
A little bit overeager, didn't necessarily have the backup from the rest of his squad, and Fnatic were the first to move.
Yeah, I'm very interested in some of the aggression that we're actually seeing from G2 here, because Fnatic has the tools to respond, and they do so. Mid-priority from Humanoid, playing that range into melee matchup. Caps in response now with Humanoid out of lane, gets to push it back, but Humanoid is back there to pick it up. And again, we just go back to an even state. G2 now being the team with the turret down towards the bot side, having the wave being pushed into it.
And I think when you do consider how these comps are going to play out, while the hostile takeover will do well into the likes of Wukong or Jax, Rakan if they jump onto him, keep in mind that if Cassante, Silas, Vi go forward, Emperor's Divide, Cyclone, the quickness as well as like Siva just on the defense, on the hunt, there are a lot of tools for teams to kind of dance backwards as they're fighting. I do think it's maybe a little bit easier for G2 to engage in terms of the tools they do have available to them. So I squish your side on that Rakan. But at least for now, dead even in 8 minutes, Advien are reckless. They've bounced back. They're still 20 CS down. Do keep that in mind as Berserker's Greaves have been picked up. And where does Yike go now? Because he's played pretty aggro the last few minutes. He's going to start off this Rift Herald.
Yeah, so not much is going to happen here. You can see that G2 decided to use a lot of their vision on the top side once again and seeing that Razork is not being spotted by any of these wards, and particularly not on his red buff, this is just a free objective for you to take. Reckless on the reset down towards the bottom side, so we're not looking to cross-map anything here. It's just going to be a win for G2 getting this Rift Herald for themselves.
Do you have a preference on where you'd like to use that Herald, or is it just going to be depending on whatever happens in the respective lanes?
Yeah, I think this is something that you can keep in mind for the next Drake that you heal up in 2 minutes. You can usually use it around the mid lane to just get that priority. It's hard for you to just straight up use it in bot lane and try and get the play out of it, or at least utilize it to the maximum potential. I think the ideal scenario for them is they get a pick where Yike and Caps link up. One of the members of a lane is dead. They can try getting some plating out of it.
Okay, keep our eyes then on where those junglers are moving. Neither with flash available, both with ults available. Top laners, despite that little bit of shenanigans in level 3, level 4, whatever it was, Oscar and Broken Blade still dead even. Just doing top lane things. No real advantage to speak of, but...
Well, you say that, he's suddenly doing bot lane things instead. We're having a lane swap come in here, so now the G2 to control of the top side of the map. They can try and push in here on the top side, look for... Well, I was going to say plating, but Yike is actually on the other side of the map, so it's not like they're getting a huge amount out of this. They're just feeding Hansama extra waves because Oscar had a stacked up minion wave that was initially going to push into Broken Blade, but Hansama is now the one being picked it up.
And of course, Broken Blade's teleport has just become available. Significant cooldown still for Oscar. Humanoid's 2/3 of his way through, so TPs will be available for G2. There's one now, the other sooner. And we've got ourselves the swap. All right, Reckless catching waves in the middle lane with Humanoid. Caps forced to dash his way to safety. Top lane, Advienne and Razork going to be trading, and look at this, Broken Blade just left, completely alone, uncontested. No teleports from Fnatic to catch it, so the wave secured by Hansama, the plate secured by Broken Blade, and this is going to give them some small advantages as Razork will at least get a minor win in the Scuttle Crab, but I think that was a very smart play from G2.
Yeah, at the same time though, like they're also getting the plating in mid lane. Caps is still very low, he's going to need a reset soon.
Riz Divide comes out, Flash was used and beautifully set up by Humanoid.
Yeah, Caps was greedy for an extra wave, you can see it on his summoner spells right now. TP coming up now, and he wanted to clear this wave back and TP, have it ready for the Drake. That was not the case, so they get to have the kill, they get to have to push it in mid, and they get a kill before the Drake.
Really, really nicely done. 2-0 on Razork's Wukong. 0-0-2 for Humanoid. He's got the Liandry secured already with 30 seconds to Drake. We'll be able to have that power advantage. Emperor's Divide needs a little bit of time, but I don't think they're going to rush it down. All right, where is Yike going? The Rift Herald is more than 50% of the cooldown used, and those top laners are now trading in this bottom lane, set up for the Dragon. Recall's coming in for Hansama as well as Mickey. If they move towards the river, you can assume they want to set up for that fight.
Yeah, Reckless is not going for it just yet, so he could be... Even G2 are pinging a question mark ping on him. They're not too sure if he's going for another wave here. If he does that, well, they're just going to move down towards the Baron. Or Drake, sorry.
Cease, desist, chains connect, hijacked Emperor's Divide, and underneath the tower, the Ike and Caps pick it up. That got a little close, but it was still well executed.
Yeah, that's well played there. So no longer a mid laner. You can move down towards the Drake if you want to. Yike, though, awfully low. Razork, not so much. TP from Broken Blade was just expended on the top side, so Oscar can make his move up there. If he does not get stopped, there is a Seri around him, but he's not.
And remember, Fnatic not in time to start that Dragon off, despite the fact that they forced Yike low. They got, they may have had numbers advantage. Instead, Hansama's recalled, picked up a couple items. The Herald has been dropped in this bottom lane. Teleport's now being channeled from Humanoid mid, and Oscar is catching top. It feels to me like G2 are getting some more of these resources, but it also looks like Fnatic will not concede this Dragon uncontested. In fact, Razork has started it. He's got backup from Advienne. Reckless and Humanoid on the way. And Caps has no teleport available to him. So Oscar's going to start the fight. Counter-strike out. One's available to him. Yike can use this blast code over the wall. Smite fight, smite fight, smite fight! It is stolen! Oh no! Boom! Sorry. Yikes! G2 steal it.
And it just shouldn't happen. Caps just reset. He wanted to get a Roa as soon as possible, so he wasn't part of that Drake fight. Once again, it's a situation where a team gets full control over Drake, and then just a jungler coming in and smiting it away. Yike just getting away with daylight robbery there.
The swagger to pop himself in, get that out, and Denton blows out. So 2 dragons now for G2 Esports. About 1,000 gold, roughly the lead. It's mostly accrued between Broken Blade and Hansama, because very, very small advantages here for Razork and Humanoid, but we're pretty even. No towers secured just yet. A number of plates have been picked up. Razork's looking for an opportunity as BB's now stepping away. He held onto that all out, so managed to fend off Oscar and I think just Death Ghost.
Yeah, Oscar can stick around here, get the push in on the top side as soon as you see Broken Blade back. especially because there's no TP on any solo laners whatsoever. So somebody's going to have to cover for this top lane. Either Yike will go up there, they'll just forfeit some wave, and BB will get less. On the other side of the map, not much is really happening just yet. They can try and set up for some plating on the bot side if they want to feed Reckless some of it, but with only 1 minute left, it would be difficult with the amount of vision control that they currently have.
Okay, with the fact that both of these teams are relatively equivalent, I think, in terms of power, Mythics pretty much mirrored across the board. We're moving into this phase where towers will fall in a minute or two. Both teams are dead even. Do you think it is easier for one of these squads to play now as they try to set up and move on the map? G2's been more proactive, but both of these teams have their nuances in how they want to play either the map or the team fights.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite even. They've been proactive in some of their trades, but I also think Razork and Humanoid have actually been really good at looking for proactive plays in that regard. And at Zomp as well, Yike potentially, at least when the first spell happened, almost too proactive as well. Yeah. So I think it's actually been super even between these two teams, Trevor, and to me that's the big surprise as well, because whereas this G2 early game you usually see, Fnatic is responding to it, and it's also because they've drafted scaling. So has Fnatic. They get to be even when we get into the mid game.
Now we get to see who's going to execute those team fights better. Keep your eyes on the minimap. 3 members of G2 somewhat being threatened. Humanoid's no teleport available. He's pressing through the Dragon's Pit. Caps is around 70% HP. We have a 4v4 on the cards. Teleporter will be up for Oscar in a few minutes, but it will fizzle. And I will say, at least coming out of the laning phase here, Fnatic are in a mostly comfortable position. They are starting to bleed golden objectives. The Dragon being snuck away under the nose. Near 2,000 gold the lead, thanks to that tower being secured and the advantages top and bottom. Oscar's doing the best that he can to keep this fight even. And I will just take this brief moment just to highlight Oscar. He has been one of the most talked about players here in LEC. 60% kill participation, damage per minute, 563, I think. Gold difference at 14, 360. Considering now the first 6 games went, that's actually pleasantly surprising to me. He's dead even this game in Jax, looking up against Broken Blade as far as the CS and items are concerned. But I think because of the plates, because of the tower, obviously that small gold advantage giving Broken Blade a minor lead for now.
This is interesting again. Broken Blade just back, but the lane stops came through, so Hansama is up towards the top side. So G2 trying to get control of the Rift Herald.
All right, Caps is going to hijack the quickness once more. Rift Herald's been started. Hansama jumping in, and Oscar's going to turn this one around. He's already used the flash. Hansama escapes with his life. Remember, Hans started that one. Herald was secured though by Yike. He's got the eye in his hand. Counter-strike has been used. Cyclone to boot. Oscar gets the kill onto Yike. Hops over the wall. And Mickey will do naught with the bailout. Just as we talk about Oscar, he helps set up the kills. And Fnatic may want to look for the tower as well.
Yeah, have you ever heard about a caster blessing? Oscar forcing Broken Blade out of the lane, then getting Caps down, or Hand Somersault down that he can barely fight. Then setting it up on Yike afterwards, Reckless.
Spell Shield was used there, and on the Only Hunt as well. Caps held the trigger, didn't engage.
Oh, was looking for it. He thought about it. Reckless not facing in the bush. Dropping the ward instead here, and wow, what a sequence of events from Fnatic. Oscar just 2 levels above Hansama, just see the moment for it and just goes for it. Hansama feeling himself a bit too much, and Oscar, as soon as he takes 1 step too far forward, he's flashing forward, which means Hansama has to flash backwards. And then once again, Yike is feeling confident, and he's like, yeah, there might be a Jax up here, but immediately the Q is cancelled out, and Razork is there for the follow-up.
I mean, Yike in this game, the entirety of this game, has been playing emboldened, I would say.
Right.
Moving forward, remember the blue buff got punished, lost his flash. He was able to step into the Dragon Pit, steal the Dragon. This time once or twice, a couple of proactive plays from Fnatic punishing him. We are 20 seconds from the next Dragon. G2 already have 2 at 17 minutes. And all of Fnatic's vision is on that western quadrant, top half of the map, but it does look like Fnatic moving in. Keep in mind, Herald is with G2 as well.
Yeah, Fnatic will get control of this because they have decided on G2 that they want to keep their solo laners in lane. So BB is still on the top side. He will have to TP in. Because he has to TP, that means Fnatic gets to be first on the objective. But it also means when this fight starts breaking out, they get to look for flank possibilities. But there's no good TP walls just now. It's just going to be straight into the Drake Pit instead.
BB's going to be arriving, and the moment. Caps is waiting in the flank, looking for something to steal away. Dragon down to 5,000, we're playing for the Might and Soul. Broken Blade steps forward, will not find the knockup. Oscar is keeping Caps at bay. Into the pit, Razork goes. Cyclone available to him. Advian pulled backwards, the quickness has become available. Advian can look for the engage. Dragon down to 2,500. Caps and Oscar in it, still trading. Yike, inside the pit, but it's Hansama that picks it up. The knockup, the quickness, the hostile takeover. Advian's down, but here comes Razov. He flashes forward for the decoys forward. With that Cyclone, they get themselves one back. It's a support for AD, but Mickey will be the next target. Caps was completely contained by Oscar. The Dragon goes to G2. And Oscar may not be done just yet. Grandmaster Mike comes out. Counter-strike, the Empower. He does it! Oscar gets the kill!
Oscar just killed Paps! And he gets the turret afterwards as well. What is happening in this game? It's suddenly shaping up to be an actual match of the week.
The thing is, with 3 Dragons under G2's belt, the Soul is literally 4 minutes away. Fnatic cannot mess that up. But they are marginally ahead on gold. They've got a 3-kill Jax, 2-kill Wukong, and 2-kill Azir, so they have the tools for Fnatic win, and you are into groups. Out of their 10, 11 years here in Europe, they have never failed to make it out of the group stage, barring once, last winter. They do not want to make it twice.
So initially, this fight is super beautiful from G2. They get the immediate lock-up. The Renato ultimate is buying so much time for them, but then they need to get out, and Vrasok just in the enemy here. Broken Bleed pushing his forward a little bit, and then Mickey with no summoner spells active, well, he's just going to go down here afterwards, isn't he? I think the big one is just Caps actually looking for the fight, misreading the fact if he can actually kill Oscar in it, because he is looking for it. It's just Oscar coming up clutch in it.
Bro, that E is just OP. The Counter-Strike did so much to buy time. Has the Hourglass, has the Divine Sundra, and we're now setting up for a potential shenanigans in the middle lane. Look, Advian, just north of the river. He's got himself level 8. Flash will be available in a few moments. Second tower secured. That's huge as well, with the mid tower falling. And the fact that Humanoid's mid is still up. And he's in Azir, so the Sunder's passive. Will also do a lot to buy some time. I will take this moment just to look at the standings before the fight comes out. Crucially, look at the bottom. 3-4 for Fnatic, 3-5 for Mad, 2-6 for Exile and Heretics. If Fnatic or Mad Lions win either of their remaining games, and tomorrow Fnatic play Astralis, they will lock in the top 8. That is because they will hit 4 wins, and neither XL nor Team Heretics can catch them at 4 wins. So Mad Lions and Fnatic, 1 win, and you are in. And Fnatic up 1,500 gold, 2.5 minutes to the next Dragon, and they're now sitting their sights in this top tower, Goldborg.
Most certainly are, and it just frees so much up here that you can get the mid control, because you never have to worry about a turret being there. You can get deeper vision control. You still need to get it set up. A lot of it is still in the river. G2 still has quite a bit of defensive vision too, but the fact is for G2, it's really difficult for them actually to get wave control. If you're pushing into the mid lane, you're either pushing into the Azir or the Sivir, who'll have no problem clearing it up, and by keeping the Sivir up towards the top side and forcing the 1v1 down towards the bottom side, which Oscar Inning is ahead, Fnatic is actually creating a much favorable map state for themselves.
Yeah, both of the goals, bot laners you just talked about. 1,200 gold there for Reckless, 800 for Hansama, making their way towards the second items. I did want to mention that Reckless is now 103. He now actually has a minor gold lead. In comparison to how the laning phase started out, that is a turnaround.
TP.
Teleport's being channeled. Emperor's Divide comes back. Broken Blade decides to go all out. The Sun Disc is dropped. That's 1 already. Humanoid's buying some time. Caps hijacks the Emperor's Divide underneath the tower with the backup. It's a 2 for 1. And they get the teleport as well. That is a win for Fnatic.
And that play was just never going to work out for G2. Fnatic already had the members moving down up towards the top side into the mid lane, and they were going to have the first move no matter what. So Fnatic, once again, they're just actually making good plays, and they're out back from G2 here. G2 reactionary, desperate, and you're feeling it against Fnatic now. 310 the kill score.
I ask every Redditor who complained and bitched and moaned about this being match of the week to eat your words. Fnatic have stepped up to the plate, and they are punishing the decisions from G2. They are in an advantage, but I do not want to discount the fact that their Dragon plays and their Riftail plays have left a bit to be desired, and we're about a minute away from that soul point.
Yeah, look at the minimap, because you know what's going to happen here. You can already see Razok moving, Reckless moving down as well. No matter what, they're going to be first to this play. So the fact that Caps actually decides to go in on this one with the TP to take the 2v2, even if he kills both of them there, he'll still not get out of it alive. He's, well, happy to get the 1, but either way, still not ideal.
30 seconds to Dragon. Goldborg, rate my statement. Fnatic's Dragons and Herald setups have been questionable, fearful, doubtful. How do you set it up? Also look at the vision here, because bear in mind Baron is also a possibility.
Yep, I'll give you the one. Fnatic is coming through with groundbreaking strategies, which is objectives don't matter if you kill the entire enemy team. And that's kind of been the story of it after they've gotten the objective, but you are right. they need to be wary of not giving over a free Baron or giving over the Soul for sure. You can just have Oscar start soloing up here if you get vision of Yike as well. You got tools to play around with where you don't have to make it that much difficult for yourself. You are doing it here. He needs to be careful. He is on a ward, but doesn't really seem like anyone's around.
Also, bear in mind, for G2, they can concede this. There's actually no major risk to give over one Dragon. They can also set up vision to play around Baron. If they give up Dragon number 2 for a Baron, that will allow them the tools they need. And right now, G2 are grouping up top.
Caps.
Conquering shifting stance from Humanoid. He's got the flash. At the end, doesn't get over the wall. That might be impactful. He's dropped the quickness. He's knocked up Hans Summer. But he's forced to spark away, and Mickey will be the sacrificial support. Fnatic get themselves the kill. While that's happening, Caps is now shoving in the mid lane, and he may be the subject of a target. TP coming out here. I think it's Oscar and TPing in. Baron? Baron? Baron?
Yep, Baron has been started up. I wasn't sure if they were just going to try and bait out Broken Blaze for the TP instead, but Yike's still around the vicinity. He needs to get access to the pit, but Advian's keeping him out, and I don't think there's any way they're actually getting this. Fnatic, they've just picked up the Baron.
They've got the kill onto Mickey. They defended the inner turret top, and they have stolen away the Baron. Fnatic are in commanding control at the 23-minute mark.
And it all comes of this. They're fighting Ding. G2 on a push up towards the top side. They're trying to get the tier 2, but Advian just instantly flashing there, splitting them apart. Mickey left behind, no mobility in his kit, and that's all it needed. Broken Blade stuck on the bottom side. He did have that teleport, but with Oscar TPing in the mid lane to get control there, Caps was forced out of the play as well.
Oh, and that means that Fnatic now, with that 4,000 gold lead, and the fact that Oscar's Jax is still 5-0, he's working towards his third item. Going into a potential fight, Reckless had the quick blades under his belt already. So now they have the tools to press that advantage further.
He's on vision, he's on vision!
Captain Yike got there! That's at least a knock-up onto Yike. He's forced to flash over the wall. Charges up that Q, holds onto it for now. Fnatic will take the tower. That ward was beautiful.
Yeah, never Fnatic push against Fnatic. That's not going to work out for you. Caps looking for it again, but Reckless already ready with the Boomerang Blade. And now Fnatic, they're just pushing in on 2 lanes. They got the Baron up on top side. Humanoid in the mid lane as well. They're just going to try and get control here, trying to push forward to take care of the turrets.
Oscar has got a 2-level advantage over Broken Blade. Broken Blade's in the mid lane. TP available to Humanoid, as you just mentioned. The Baron Empowered Cannon is now sieging away. Almost took that tower down, and Fnatic start to back out. Keep in mind, if Fnatic go all the way forward, the tools from Broken Blade's Cassante as well as the hostile takeover can be huge. The hostile takeover is buying so much time, but I don't think G2's done enough. Oscar has already got himself the kill into Yike, and now G2 are routed. They're wrecked. They're running for their lives, and Fnatic find 3 kills.
Can you believe it? Fnatic is actually doing it. Oscar still going strong here. Anyone here to defend him? Yes, he's got the Sonias. Broken Blade in the fray of Fnatic, and he's going down as well.
He does it again! Oscar gets himself another kill. 8-0-1 against the defending Winter Split champions. The death timers are 40 seconds, 16-10. They've got Baron empowered minions, and they're taking multiple inhibs.
Yeah, I wonder how much are you actually going to look for here. The top inhibitor for sure going down. Humanoid still going strong in the mid lane. Turret down as well, looking for the inhibitor. Afterwards, I think they are just going for a reset. But Fnatic, what the absolute... I'm not going to say it can happen.
You would have been justified to drop that F-bomb. 9,000 gold in the lead. 500th game in the LEC for Reckless. The match that qualifies Fnatic to groups, and they have punished Yike at every opportunity. And crucially for me, they played
Look at the engage. Look at the spell shield as well here. So spell shield comes down, he tries to smite it, and in that, actually does not get it. So the smite is not the one that procs the spell shield. He still gets out of it scot-free. Reckless, there is a moment where he's trying to kill his teammates here instead. It's not just going to work out. Time's out finally. And as soon as they go down, well, Hans Summer, he's already caught in between Vrasok. Oscar just going forward. Teamfight's just done.
Unbelievable. And I do think you have to be very specific. I think Fnatic have had questionable Dragons and Heralds for the first 20 minutes, but they played Baron flawlessly. I think Yike has been very bold in how his movement was around the map, but Oscar has played flawlessly this game. 8-0-1. To be fair, almost every single player from Fnatic has, and that's why you're in this position. 2 waves of supers to deal with, a minute until the next Dragon. Fnatic don't even need that objective. They can just go for that. What was it? Screw the objectives, get the kills. That's the strategy that's worked for them.
Yeah, but for now, the turrets are for sure more important than the kills initially here. Fnatic now, 3-game win streak, looking to make it 4 here. What a revitalized roster that we're seeing. Super minions pushing down in the mid lane and on the top side. Don't have to get the turret now on this wave. You can afford to be patient. You can be affording to wait. There's also 40 seconds on the Drake. It doesn't have to be now. 2 minutes on the Baron as well for G2. They should look in to get as many resources as they can. Pick up the minions, get the gold, see if you can get back into the game, but they are under pressure of Fnatic.
They really, really are. Flash is not available for Reckless and Resort. Cyclone is. He's about to level 16. I think he sidesteps away from that boomerang blade. All right, super minions, they're inside the base on the top. That's the engage. Humanoid dodges away from the cease and desist. Hostile takeover, frankly, does nothing. And Avian now looking for the re-engage with the quickness. Everybody's at the front line, but nobody's done just yet. Finally, it's Yike that goes down. Reckless is on a killing spree. Every member of G2 is low. They get themselves one back into Oscar, but here comes Mickey. Avian, supportal combat. Smack him with the feathers. That's not fair, Broken Blade. He actually backs away because he's going to defend the Nexus turrets from the super minions. Fnatic get a little bit thwarted, a little bit held back, but there's a lot of supers to deal with, and the first Nexus turret will fall down.
Yeah, Reckless still bouncing down on the bottom side as well, so they're looking for the third one too. There's still 20 seconds. A majority of the members of G2, they could look for more if they're feeling themselves.
Well, even if they don't, double supers in multiple lanes.
Just hit!
Just hit! Razor's going forward. Mickey with the bailout. Razor takes himself another turret shot. Here comes Broken Blade. He's forced to run for his life. Drops the Q, finds Rakan, and Vian's dead. Reckless is taking the next Nexus turret. All of a sudden, cease and desist comes up from Yike. He needs time. He needs to find the kills. And G2 live to fight a few minutes longer.
Fnatic could have for sure ended that. They're just indecisive. They just needed to hit. Reckless being stuck in the inhibitor turret was needed. TPs are coming through. This could be it.
Double teleports from Fnatic. They want to make it to groups. Emperor's Divine comes out, but I don't think they've done it. Oscar goes forward. Counter strikes by time. Getting for the empower. It doesn't work. It does not work.
Oh, that's going to be sold now for Fnatic. Oh no, Fnatic G2, they can be able to move over to the Draken. Every single structure except the Nexus of G2 has now fallen. And I'm not even sure how to describe this play. They see the opening, they see the potential for it, but I think it's a quick hijack from Caps to steal away the Emperor's Divide, putting them away from the Nexus. Lives and die by Oscar afterwards, and sadly he's not able to make it.
G2 Esports get the soul out of this one, and this is way too early to tell, and frankly, it is not a 100% fair comparison because Fnatic this year have mostly sucked, but that moment just reminded me of match of the century. That moment reminded me, was it 2019 for G2? Going all the way to a near exact same situation on the back door. No teleports up. G2 have got soul. G2 are likely to get the Baron, and G2 might just be back in this game.
Well, we don't know. There's still Old Somnus and Razork. They get the vision here now with the redemption. Vods still active as well. Minions in the base. Razork, can you come over and steal this one?
Does he do it? He does! Razork steals the Baron for Fnatic. Caps is trying to fend off the supers, but G2 may have just won this fight. Razork is running for his life as Reckless is taken down once more. 50-second death timer. Razork's down as well. 5 versus 3, but there are so many supers to deal with. How does he do that?
Yeah, he just does it. Razork, he's been waiting it up. He's been storing energy throughout the entire year, and he's all unleashing it now instead. But minions are still pushing through. We still have 30 seconds on Reckless, 30 seconds on Razork. Baron alive on 3 members, and G2 still under much pressure with no structures going for them.
In my opinion, that has kind of reset the game with the exception of the supers. G2 cannot afford a even minor deficit in these team fights with no structures available. And when the teleports come back up for Fnatic, a slightly better setup on the double TP Nexus rundown could be more favorable. However, with the soul, with the goal difference being closed, with the Baron buying a little bit of time and really just kind of neutralizing the game, the next fights are going to be determining who wins this game. Who locks top 4, who locks top 8.
Yeah, it's almost at a point where you just say, forget the macro. It's going to come down to the team fight execution now, albeit Fnatic ahead in gold, should be ahead in items for the most part as well. G2 though, with the soul going for them, Baron still active. They're pushing it now. Super minions for Fnatic are pushing in on the bottom side. Oscar in on the top side, leading in a bigger minion wave. Now Humanoid setting up camp with the Asir turret. Yikes, look for a moment.
That's the engage, cease and desist, Emperor's Divine split them up, but it's damage being dealt first onto G2. Oscar is fighting Caps. He's going for the Nexus. He's going for the Nexus. A couple hits have landed. Reckless has got the kill onto Yike. Now Oscar is being pushed away. Hans Summer, Mickey Caps buying time. Broken Blades are targeting Fnatic. I think they've done it. I think they've done it. Fnatic have got a few kills left to secure. The inhibitors are respawning at the top of the middle lane. They cannot get to the Nexus yet. Baron empowered minions for another minute. And they're stepping forward. They need a few more hits. Reckless goes in. The damage is being landed. The knockup too. Bailout won't matter. Fnatic need a few more on top.
It's not dead yet.
Oops! Are you not entertained? What